So welcome all, and glad to have you on today's Safeoclock Health and Safety Interactive Workshop. So we'll be talking about Health and Safety Notice Board. We'll be looking at some of the guidelines for effective Health and Safety Notice Board in the workplace. So no matter the industry, no matter wherever you work, you see that there is a safety notice board available. So that notice board plays a very huge, a very important role in management of health and safety. So safety notice board are effective ways of communicating necessary information. Most times, there are certain informations that even though you've communicated them verbally, even though that they've been sent by email, they've been communicated to people, or people are readily aware of those information, but re-emphasizing them and making them visibly available in the notice board will either re-echo the importance of that information in the mind of the workers or in the mind of people in that workplace. So that is where safety notice board comes in. It plays an important role to ensure that the information provided is concise and is vital and is also clear. So you see that a notice board is something not too big, and the information that will be on the notice board has to be very important because there is no much space. So you wouldn't bog the notice board with a lot of things or a lot of things that are not so important. So that is why it has to be concise. And another important aspect of notice board is to ensure that the notice board, the information you put there is clear, in the sense that it's not going to be ambiguous. It's not something that requires explanation. So that is where notice board plays important role in management of workplace health and safety. Okay, so I'll be talking about some of the items that you put in the notice board, or some of the items that should be on the notice board. So the first item that should be on the notice board is health and safety policy. The company's policy should be on the notice board. Why? Why should it be on the notice board? The major reason is that health and safety policy of the organization signifies the management commitment. It signifies the higher management commitment to health and safety of that workplace. So what it means, since it's signed by the CEO or the highest authority in that organization, is stating that the management or this organization is committed to ensuring that the workers' health and safety is given a priority. So having it at a notice board where everyone gets to see it, even visitors, customers, people who comes to the workplace often get to see it. So it also displays, it also ensures that the management is committed, and it re-echoes the commitment of the management to the workers who sees this information on the notice board. So that is one of the reasons or why it should be there. Another point or another item that can be on the notice board is management representative contacts, because not all the employees or all the workers will have the contact of the managers or the directors in their phone. So having it readily available on the notice board can make it useful when it's required, maybe in the event of emergency, or maybe when there is need to contact a certain manager. So having those contacts on the notice board makes it readily available and useful when anybody requires it, or when even maybe visitors, maybe not even the workers, maybe passers-by that observe something that is going wrong, or something that that attention needs to be drawn to. So looking at the notice board that is beside or just near the entrance or near the rest areas, near the welfare facilities, it makes it readily available for the person to pick up the phone and call the management representative, highlighting the reason why he called. So that is why having the contact on the notice board is also important. Another item that can be on the notice board is employee representative. Just like you have the management representative on the notice board, having the representative of the employees, maybe workers representative, maybe representative from different department, different sector of the organization. So those representatives having their contact on the notice board can make it useful, especially when required. For example, having the contact of the safety officer, the contact of the first aider or the firefighter on the notice board makes it useful at a time when it's readily needed. So another important item that can be on the safety notice board is government issued notices. So any notice that was recently issued by relevant authorities within that location or within that environment can be on the notice board. This makes it readily available for people to view, for people to see it and be able to refresh their memory, or people who are not yet aware of that information or that notice issued by the authority, they can read it on the notice board and they are enlightened, they're informed. So that is one of the items also that can be on the notice board. Another important item that can be on the safety notice board is emergency plan. Emergency plan like details of the fire wardens, the contact of the fire wardens, map showing the locations of the assembly point, the emergency evacuation map, the location of the first aid kit, or the location of the fire equipment. So this emergency plan being available on the notice board can make it it will be a very relevant information required in event of emergency, or even a visitor, or even somebody who is new to the site can readily look at the emergency plan on the notice board and be able to get familiar with the work site, get familiar with the location of this emergency equipment, the assembly point, fire exits. So having information about the emergency plan on the notice board is very relevant and is an important item also. Now, another item that can be on the notice board is first aid. Your trained first aiders, the list of the first aiders, maybe their contact as well, and the mobile number of the first aiders, the details of the medical local first aid clinic, the location of your clinic. You can be able to identify those things on your safety notice board. Another item that can be on the safety notice board is the consultation policy. This is communication policy, how you're able to communicate to your workers, how you're able to consult the workers in the workplace. It's not going to be a detailed or overall a policy itself. It could be a summarized policy of how you consult the workers, how you communicate safety information to the workers. So just concise and summarize part of that policy can be on the notice board as well. Another item that can be on notice board that is relevant is personal protective equipment. You can have it in the form of a poster or in form of a drawing highlighting all the basic mandatory required personal protective equipment required for that particular workplace. So somebody at a glance can easily look at the notice board and be able to identify the mandatory personal protective equipment, can be able to identify the type of PPE he requires at that particular site or at that particular moment. So he can even look at himself and check if all the PPEs that has been listed or that has been shown on that notice board, if he's in compliance, if he has all of them. or not. So that is part of items that we can present on the notice board. So on the notice board also, you can have your hazard reporting and escalation procedure or plan. Okay, so in the event of emergency, if an incident happens, some workers who are not yet familiar with your reporting procedures or your escalation procedures, they might get confused. So having this concise, maybe in a drawing form, or maybe in a bullet form, or maybe in in a way that is easy to understand, having it on the notice board for workers to easily glance on and be able to identify what's next, who is supposed to be contacted first, what should be reported first, who should be reported first. So this hazard or incident reporting procedure or escalation plan can be made available on the notice board, which makes it an easy to identify fact or an easy to identify information that the worker or the employee does not need to go through the hustle of asking people or go through the hustle of checking through the emails or maybe checking through the files to identify what needs to do in event of emergency. So having this relevant information on the notice board can help easy escalation of issues or easy reporting of that incident by even somebody who is not yet experienced or somebody who is reporting this incident or escalating issues for the very first time. Okay, so another item that can be on the notice board is incident and safety targets. Whatever is the target of the organization at that particular year or maybe at that particular month can be displayed on the notice board. For instance, judging from previous incident record or previous incident statistics, the organization can decide to portray what is the target for the organization or for that workplace within a particular time. They can decide to state. Some organizations will say that they want zero harm, zero incident. Some will say that they want 100% compliance. So the target, the organization target, incident and safety target can be displayed on the notice board. This builds up in the minds of the workers when they are passing through and when they are going about their business and they look at the notice board and they're able to look at and see what is the target, what is the safety target of our company, what is our company trying to achieve this year, or what is the plan that our organization have this year. You can call it zero harm, you can call it zero accident, you can call it zero incident. So those type of safety targets can be put up on the notice board. It's a form of awareness, it's a form of clear information going out without a voice, without verbalizing it. So that is one of the items that can be on the notice board. Another item that can be on the notice board is training, like your training matrix, your organizational training matrix, the training plan, the training calendar can be on the notice board, displaying the type of items that or the type of topics that you have planned to complete within that particular time or within that year or within 6 months or within 3 months. Maybe it can be quarterly, it can be yearly training plan, it can be 6 months training plan. So having your training matrix, skill matrix on that notice board, it's a way of concise information, a way of letting the workers know that this is a training plan on a so date of the month. We have training for first aid. On next the second week of the month, we have training for firefighters. So having this training matrix or training plan displayed on the notice board gives it direct information, makes it readily available for the workers to look at and understand what is the next target of the organization in terms of training. So another important topic or another important information that can be on the notice board is safety meetings. Safety meetings, it could be the plan of safety meeting for the year. It can also be a previous items or previous target that has been agreed upon in the last safety committee meetings. It can also be a summarized form of the minutes of meeting that was agreed upon during the last safety committee meetings. Another item that can be there is safety items agreed upon to be actioned in safety committee meetings. It can be summarized, it can be in a bullet forms, it can be made in picture forms, it can also be made in a form of diagrams, just to make it look catchy, to make it so that people can be able to get attracted to that and reduce their speed in order to read and understand what is on that safety notice board. So having safety meetings information on the notice board is quite advisable as well, because safety committee meetings are not attended by everyone. It's always attended by representative of the workers. So most workers might not be fully aware of what was agreed upon in that safety committee meeting. So having summarized form of that meeting on the notice board gives out this information without voice, without verbalizing it. So that is why it's one of the items that can be on the safety notice board. Okay, another item that can be on the safety notice board is work injury or return to work program. So when people get injured, there is often time given to them to get healed, and after they get healed, they return to work. But this return to work program is a system whereby the organization states this sequence or the process that somebody who has gotten injured returns to work. He doesn't just come back to work and resume full duty at that immediately on that first day. So it can take some steps. Maybe he can take some reduced workload at the first day of resumption. Then at the second day of resumption, he can take another reduced workload at the third day of resumption until he's fully acclimatized to the job again, until he's fully acclimatized, until he doesn't have any injury again. He doesn't feel the pain again due to that injury that he was in. So that is known as return to work program. So many organizations has return to work program, and this return to work program, most times they come in a procedure, they come in a policy form, which can be summarized, and the summary of that return to work program can be posted on the safety notice board, giving people access to it to understand how they are required to operate when they return to work after an injury, or after when somebody has returned from an injury. What are the levels of operation that he's expected to be exposed to on the first day, or on the second day, or on the third day? So it can be in form of poster, it can be in form of summarized written form of the procedure. So when these are all available on the safety notice board, it becomes a clear information, a clear means of information for the organization. The organization doesn't, even though that these informations will be communicated through safety meetings, through toolbox talks, through trainings also. The safety notice board is not meant to replace other form of communications. One thing we should remember is safety notice board, they are not meant to replace all other forms of communication in the workplace, like the toolbox talks, like the task briefing, like the training, like the induction. No, it's not going to replace all the forms of communications, all the forms of training or all the forms of means of information to the workers. It's not going to replace it. What it does is that it helps to re-echo what has been discussed. It re-echoes the information that has been communicated verbally or the ones that has been sent by electronic medium like emails or maybe through company group chats. So those information that has been communicated already, the safety notice board, what it does is to re-echo them, to re-emphasize them, or to maybe remind the workers from time to time about those informations and make them handy, especially when required. For instance, the incident escalation and reporting procedure or matrix, it makes it very handy. You see, you understand that some situations when there is an incident or when an incident occurs in the workplace, even the most experienced person gets distracted or you get anxious, you get nervous, that you can even forget what is the procedure, what are the next things that you are supposed to do. Okay, but having those informations readily available on the notice board can become a lifesaver. That at that time you know who is the first person to contact, you know who is the next line, what is the next line of action, you know what is the next or what is the time frame for the reporting. In some organizations, you have to report the incident immediately. You have some organizations, you have 24 hours to report. A certain level of reporting can be done in the next 24 hours. So having those informations in concise form in safety notice board makes it very easy and becomes a lifesaver in the event of emergency, that you can actually look at those places and get the real information without making any mistakes. Okay. Also, another example is the emergency contact details available on the notice board. You see that there is a time that maybe your phone is off, or maybe you are out of a call card and you have another phone by the side, okay, and you need to make the call. So, and you start looking for those contacts. You start asking where are those, and some people might not have it, or maybe you are the only one at that shift at that particular time. So having those contacts readily available on the notice board becomes a saver, that you can easily walk up to the notice board, pick up the numbers, and call whoever you want to call at that particular time. Now, there's another important thing that we need to note about safety notice board. Safety notice board must be properly arranged so that it doesn't look clustered. It doesn't have to be clustered with informations. It doesn't have to be clustered with irrelevant things. So safety notice board must be properly arranged. It should contain only relevant information. And another thing is that the safety notice board should be updated regularly. It should contain updated information of that workplace. For instance, we say that it has to contain the organizational health and safety policy. If the health and safety policy has been reviewed, or it has been updated, or the manager or the CEO has changed, and there has been a review of the policy, so what should be on the notice board should be the updated one. So there should be somebody responsible looking out for the safety notice board, ensuring that the information on the safety notice board is the updated information. For instance, the emergency contact details that will be on the notice board. If the first aider have changed, if the fire warder or firefighting have changed or have changed workplace, yet it's not yet updated on the notice board, it becomes a hazard as well. It becomes an issue that can mislead people. In the event of emergency, instead of calling the right person, the person picks up the phone and is calling the wrong person. It's calling someone who is in another workplace. So that is why the information on the safety notice board must be adequately updated and should be properly checked from time to time. In some workplaces, they have checklists. The same way you have checklists to inspect your power tools, the same way you have checklists to inspect your equipment, the same way you have checklists to inspect even your workplace. They have a checklist for inspecting safety notice board. What do those checklists contain? It contains the relevant items that should be on the notice board. It contains the date and up-to-date to verify that those informations are updated, and also to check that the relevant informations on the notice board are still intact and they are still visible. Some of the informations might have been defaced. Maybe the notice board is located outside, rain and sun has hit it, and the color is no more coming out, it's no more visible. So during the time of inspection or somebody having that checklist, what he does is he checks out this information on the notice board, the ones that has been defaced, the ones that needs to be changed. He changed it, he identifies them and it's changed. So that is why safety notice board should also be inspected, just like we inspect our tools, our equipment, and even our workplace. Okay. Then another thing that we most times talk about is, where is safety notice board supposed to be located? There is no specified place that the safety notice board can be. It's based on your workplace and based on your own assumption of relevancy. But in most cases, safety notice board are located near the welfare facilities. The brain behind it is that during the break time, the workers are always available there, that they can even have some time to look at the notice board and read. Also, it's also located in the entrance, near the entrance of the site. The rationale behind it is that if you're having people coming in for the first time, or maybe visitors, or maybe new contractors, they'll be able to read out the notice board and identify what are the items that are prohibited, the items that are required, especially in form of PPE. So that could be a rationale behind that. Another location could be near the worker, where the workers are working. So there's different rationales, and different people have their perception as at where safety notice board should be located. Okay, so I've given some insights on safety notice board and where it should be, and the items that should be positioned in the safety notice board. And so I think I've spoken a lot. I will now give room for anyone who has something to contribute. The floor is readily open.
Sorry, I came in late because I had an emergency with my internet. So I was trying to sort it out where in my compound we all had a connection from. So it's unfortunate. So though I know when I was discussing with Mr. Johnson, he was asking me if I had a slide for this presentation. I said no, but before this time, I just tried to bring out something out of it. But I wouldn't know if I will need to share it or I just speak from here. Whichever way.
I can give you access to share.
Okay.
You can share.
Okay, let me see. Oh, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Yeah. Actually, I'll just run through because I don't know, but I believe most of what is here, probably you might have said it, because for the short time I've been here, I found out that most of the information I will be passing across has been said by you. So, but in a nutshell, I want to say that maintaining an effective health and safety notice board is very crucial for keeping an employee informed and promoting a safe work environment as an health and safety practitioner. And however, there are guidelines that are provided, which are kind of comprehensive framework that will ensure that our notice board are engaging, compliant, and also serve the intended purpose of which such is designed. So when we go forward, we can see that a notice board, the reason why we put in notice board in our respective places, either work site or offices, is for the workers to get this information, and for us to provide this awareness in terms of hazard, what the worker needs to know in order for them to work safely. And like I said, the purpose is for us to have a kind of centralized information area or space, whereby we provide a kind of dedicated space to display all relevant health and safety information, ranging from the policy, procedure, use of PPE, emergency first aid, contact details, and all that, because these things are very, very important. And also promoting awareness, like I've said, whereby we kind of raise awareness to our safety procedures on site, about the hazard on site in terms of identification, best practice, the way we display our PPE, what is mandatory to be used on site, what are not supposed to be used on site, and stuff like that. So in such instances, with notice board in our respective site, we discover that we are promoting awareness. Then in terms of encourage engagement, we find out that when we do this in our respective site, it proves, to the workers that we are fostering a culture of safety, by a way of encouraging them to participate actively, in terms of reference and contribution to the notice board as well. So sometimes it's not about only we are safety. When it comes to the safety notice board activity, you don't leave it alone to the safety. You need to bring in the workers from side. If maybe when you are trying to change it and all that, you try to clean, you dedicate, you bring out some labors and all that to give them that responsibility. Once in a while, they do the cleanup, they do the maintenance and all that. So all these things will make them buy in and make them understand the importance why we're going for all this. Like what Mr. Johnson said, which I picked in, when we want to place notice board, we need to look at the placement and visibility. It is very important because once you place a notice board where in the wrong location, then it becomes invalid. Our objective becomes invalid. When there is no good visibility, poor visibility, it means we are not passing any information. And even where the notice board is being placed, is it accessible by the workers? All workers, is it accessible? If it's not accessible, then what are we doing with the notice board? So it means we are not in line or in compliance with the guidelines. So because I know for every country, every jurisdiction, no matter how they design their guideline, or maybe industrial-based guideline, you discover that a notice board should be well or strategically positioned, whereby you discover that in a strategic area where there's an high traffic of workers, okay, because even if it's in an office setting, you see that before anybody gets to their office, they must pass through the lobby. You get it? If it's in a construction site, before you get to the site, at the gate entrance, everybody must pass through that place. You cannot jump through the fence. So these are strategic area, like what Mr. Johnson has said also, in the rest area, or break room, where people have their lunch, breakfast, and so on and so forth. These are strategic area where we can place, our notice board for people to easily see it and go through it. Now, in terms of visibility, yes, we should ensure that notice board is well lit and easily readable from a distance, at least from a certain distance. Sometimes you might not necessarily come too close to the board, but at least if you are 1 meter, 2 meters away from the notice board, you should be able to know and tell what is written in the notice board. So those signages and all that should be clear, not blur. Because I've seen some cases whereby you see the picture, images and all that, some of them are always blur. So people can easily read it at a distance of even a meter. So it's very important that we have a clear visibility of the images, signages, and all information that need to be on the notice board. And also in terms of accessibility, we talk about notice board need to be accessible to all employees, including those with disability, by considering height and placement. So the height and the placement is also important, because if we don't place it properly, in terms of people to access it, even those with disability, then we discover that we are disenfranchising some certain group of people from getting this information and awareness. So going further, what are those information? What are those things or the content that we should possibly find in the notice board? I think I will just focus myself on maybe four. Mr. Johnson might have said a lot about it, but I know one very most important thing is that you cannot rule away your health and safety policy. Health and safety policy, just like on somebody coming to site on the first day, you are giving induction, you are supposed to give them information about the safety policy of that organization. Okay, so it is also important, there is no guideline that is designed that will not state that you should have your safety policy on your notice board. And also emergency procedure or protocol, it is very important. If there's an emergency, what are the steps? Who and who to be contacted? What are we going to do in order to rescue anybody or to evacuate the environment? So these are very important, that should be strategically positioned on a notice board, that everybody must understand, everybody must see at every given time, to just look at it and reflect on those steps, and also should be able to pass out information about hazard. Like if you see what is on the screen now, you see warning sign, warning, maybe, all those kind of thing in some particular specific activity area, some signages can be placed there. So all these things are also form of whereby we are able to inform the workers about the hazard that are peculiar with such working environment. Different industry with different hazard, different industry with different requirement as well when it comes to notice board, because when you go to the oil and gas, what you're likely to see might likely different from the construction and also in the facility industry. So things like that are very important for us to understand, especially where we are, which industry we are working and all that. So also training resources and all that, depending on the size of the notice board, should be included in the notice board as well. And also when we talk about, we should look about updating and maintaining the notice board. I've seen scenario whereby what has been in the notice board, it has been there for 3 years. Things changes, even when regulation change, when management change, when there are different things, when things change, when there's a review of policy, all those things need to change also as well. There should be a kind of regular review of what is already in the notice board. Has there been changes? Is there anything we need to change? With that, just like the way we review risk assessment, policies and all that, when those things change, it has to reflect on the notice board, and it needs to be done on a timely manner. Because if somebody who is part of the emergency rescue team, which his name or phone number is on the notice board, and there's a change or the person left the company, you still leave the number there, and maybe there's an emergency, you start calling, even for first aid issue. So you see why it is as important as our risk assessment and HSE policy. Those things need to be maintained. Those things need to be updated regularly, and also we should be able to create a provision within the notice board whereby we encourage workers to give their feedback and suggestion in order to improve the safety notice board, because it's as important as anything on site. And also, when we go further, you look at, we should use notice board to address a lot of issues. Like notice board is used in that kind of situation in terms of listening actively to workers, like I've mentioned, in terms of feedback, address safety concern, respond to or provide timely and transparent response to employee inquiry, demonstrating commitment to their well-being and safety as well. And also it gives an opportunity for us to collaborate, with the workers and engage with them as well. And one of the best, most of the best practices for effective communication as well is when we follow all these procedures and all those things in terms of notice board, okay? Because like I've said earlier, if the signages need to be clear, they need to be consistent in terms of the format you are using, the layout, design, and all that. So you don't just put some kind of write-up and things that are not consistent and so on and so forth, because there are some writing formats you use that might not be clear, even at 1 meter distance, until somebody go close to it. So all those things we need to put in a consideration, and we should also ensure that the language is very simple for everybody to understand. I know in some location, especially in the Middle East, we need to do a kind of translation either in Arabic or Indian and all that, so that everybody will be able to understand. Because if everything is in English, then we have defeated the aim of this information we are passing across the notice board. So everybody need to understand it in terms of their languages and all that. And also, we should use an image or graphic that are engaging. You know, even if some of them don't understand English, when you look at the image, you'll be able to tell what it's all about. And in compliance and regulatory requirements, like in many jurisdictions, for example, like OSHA ensure that notice board meet OSHA standard for posting workplace safety information. So these are documents that we can lay our hands on. We can look at it depending on which region you are working. And also, we also have what we call local requirements. You know, like in Qatar, we have the QCS. So every country has their own local regulation, irrespective of the international regulatory requirement. And also some industry also have some specific, you know, requirement based on what they need to know. You know, like when you go to the oil and gas, deal with a lot of chemicals, hazardous substances, and things like that. So it all depends on industry as well. So all this we should also bear it at the back of our mind as a health and safety practitioner in order to work safely and in order to give information to the workers timely and effectively. Thank you very much for listening. So I would just want to believe those who are here have one or two contribution or questions to share or experience. So we are here to listen as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen, for that wonderful contribution and input. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much for your time and the effort. So the one thing I want to add as well to safety notice board is that idea he talked about making it communicative. You see, in some situations or in some workplaces, they don't consider who is reading the notice board. They make everything text, or they make everything in a specific language, depending on that workplace, especially in the Middle East, when we have a lot of people from different nationalities and people whose language or whose first language is not English. So putting all the information in English or putting all the information on the notice board in English language, it will not, it's not able to pass the relevant information as required. So the idea is you add some translations and make it more of them pictorial. Those pictures, they say that pictures speaks more than 1,000 words. So using pictures to illustrate, use illustrations, use graphical forms, some highlights. These are readily available in the internet that you can always check for the right picture to use and make sure that your audience are well captured. Make sure that the information is communicated to the people, not just because you want to have safety notice board, you just put up the information there without minding if the information is getting to the people or not. So we should ensure that when we are addressing the issue of notice board, we should take it that notice board is a communication tool. And just like when you are doing your two-bus talk and people are not responding, when you say, do you understand? Nobody on that response. That means you are not communicating. So take your notice board as a communication tool as well, so that you ask yourself, just like you ask in the two-bus talk, do you understand? You ask yourself, is the information passed? Have I communicated by way of what you are putting on the notice board? Is this relevant? Is it relevant to the audience? For instance, in the notice board at the activity area, you have painting activity going on in that location, but everything you put up in that location is about excavation. So can you ask yourself, have you communicated? is this information relevant to this particular location? So that is why we say that notice board is a communication tool. It's not just a display or a decorative tool just to make the workplace look beautiful or look nice. No, we should ensure that we are communicating. We should ensure that the information on the notice board gives out the right information to the right audience using the right language, the right communication tools to ensure that that information is well passed. And not just about meeting legal requirements or regulatory requirements, but ensuring that the information is well communicated. In some situations, notice board can be used as a hazard communication tool. You can use it to communicate your hazard. You can have, you can segment your notice board that a particular segment or a particular part is for hazard communication in that particular area. Maybe a particular activity, you have notice board position at that particular place where the activity is going on, and you have relevant signages or relevant hazard communication of hazard tools positioned in that notice board. Instead of placing it on the wall, instead of using it to deface the wall or deface the workplace, you can use your notice board as that for that hazard communication. You communicate the hazard, communicate the control measures in place or recommended control measures, the type of PPEs required, the type of tools, the equipment required. You can use make a proper diagram or proper pictures in that particular place, and you have used it to communicate hazard. So notice boards should be seen as a proper communication tool instead of just using it as a decorative tool for the workplace. Okay, let's see if Mr. Francis or Mojede have something to contribute.
I think for my side, all the analysis has been given, and all that they said are all relevant. So I don't think I have anything to bring.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for always being available, even though you are on the transit. So we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother.
Good evening, sirs.
Amajade, I
Good
think
evening,
you've been having a network issue because you were off and on. The network issue is still there. Well, sorry for that. Sorry for that network problem.
Can you hear us?
Hello. Hello, can you hear me? The network has not been friendly at all. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you
Hello,
now.
sir.
Go ahead. Yeah, we can hear
Hello.
you.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible now.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, we really appreciate your contribution, and even Mr. Francis, there are so many things that I have not previously known with this class. I've been able to learn them, and I believe with what I've learned, I can really have inputs in the place I work in terms of safety notice boards. I just want to say that you know what you guys have said is true, and but I just want to say something that pertains to the sizes of notice boards in workplaces. Sometimes you may not be able to represent everything that has been said, all the information that is required to place on the board. Sometimes, mostly in our jobs, that all this jobs that will just last maybe 6 months, projects that will just last let's say 3 months, as the case may be, owing to the fact that even the contractor is just a part-time contractor that has not been mobilized with enough resources to really carry out the job the way it ought to be. So in some cases, you find out that notice boards, they may just be they may be limited in terms of space now. There are some projects I have done before now, and I found out that some notice board may just be a board, and what they may just represent on the board are the basic things, unsafe acts, things like the manner how have been worked, the site has been worked, the mobilization date, and all those things. So, but still, I still feel that is still a notice board based on the project. Maybe something like project that involve just fixing a what do you call a pipe, or project that involve just fixing one or two things. So it's not an elaborate project as such. But to my mind, still, I still feel that all things that pertains to health and safety in the workplace ought to be presented in the board. The board, there's limitation based on the fact that the project is small, and you may not have everything that pertains to health and safety to really carry out health and safety in that exact workplace. So sometimes you just find small notice board. To my mind, the basic things that pertains to the safety of that workplace should be put on that board. You understand? Really, there are some things that I picked from this class, this meeting. There are things I've picked, and I believe strongly that it will help me in terms of this my present employment that I'm in, to help me to perform better. I've been trying to come in since I've been trying to come in, so I had to change location. I had to move close to the outside environment so that I can have a good network, because when the meeting really started, I could not really pick anything that the moderator was saying. But when Mr. Francis came in, he really, I believe, with the short few minutes that he was able to come on air, I was able to pick much. So I really appreciate this meeting. Thank you very much, sirs.
Yeah, just allow me to say one or two things based on what Omojaja have said. Yes, actually, when it comes to notice board, we can't put all informations there. That is why we have other aspects, of activity we carry out on site. Especially when you have our weekly two-bus talk, you have our monthly meetings or things like that. So in such situation, a lot of information will definitely be passed across, but some basic things that needed to be known by the workers, which they might easily encounter on a daily or frequent basis on site, need to be captured in, especially when it comes to the use of PPE, identifying some certain kind of hazard within the workplace. I think it's more relevant to be on the notice board. And also the challenges you are talking about, maybe some project, maybe you don't have enough space and all that. We only attribute that to some project like that, where the problem always lies is that when you are planning for a project, most of the time, some organization, they will not even involve safety in the planning stage. That's where the problem lies. That is why sometimes when mobilization starts and all that, you begin to see a lot of challenges. You begin to look at where you want to put this, what you want to do. There's no provision for this. You start entering criteria to make sure that, we don't have space, we have space, and stuff like that. Because if safety is being carried along the planning stage, where everybody is bringing, all the engineers and everybody are coming together and say, okay, these are what we are going to do. We need this space, we need that space. Then at the end of the day, the safety, whoever is going to manage the safety on that project will be able to say, okay, these are, there you draw out your budget and all that. I've seen some side that it is only when the work have started, after they recruit safety, they will now ask them to bring their budget, if they will even ask you to bring your budget. You understand? So sometimes we are faced with all these challenges. So that's what we encounter when we go to some project like that, irrespective of the duration of the project. they should have sufficient space for us to be able to communicate those things within the workplace. Thank you. If maybe Johnson has one or two things to say on that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I have something to add. Now, when we are talking about safety notice board, we are not going to also rule out the fact that there are main contractors and there are subcontractors. Okay, so that is why the safety notice board would depend on what you are doing. The main contractor might have his safety notice board outside or near the gate, near the rest areas, and the subcontractors might have their own also sizable notice board specifically near the activity and concentrating on their own issues or maybe their own hazard, their own major interest. Let me give an instance. In my workplace, where we have a catering subcontractor who are in charge of the dining areas, right? So they have their own notice board. On the notice board, they have their company policy, they have their first aiders, they have their firefighters, they have the certificate of the health certificate of the cooks and the people handling food, right? So this is the major things concerning them. So they will have it readily available near the dining hall. And when we inspect it, we don't expect them to put up those informations that doesn't concern them. We don't expect them to put up informations about security, about the other aspect of our organization. That is part of our duty as the main contractors, right? So notice board is a communication tool, and it should be relevant to your workplace, should be relevant to what you are doing. So you will not say because this particular contractor have notice board so big like this and everything is there, and you bring up some things that are not relevant to your workplace or your activity, and it will make it boring. It can even scare away people from coming to read it because the notice board is too big and maybe some of the information there are not relevant to what they are doing. So they will think that the notice board is just a decoration tool, right? So we should endeavor to make our notice boards, the information on the notice board, very relevant to that particular idea. That is why in that instance I gave, for example, in a construction site, even though that we have all the activities going on belongs to that same contractor, but if you have notice board positioned at a particular area where a specific activity is going on, it's not wise, it's not recommended that you bring hazard or maybe risk associated with other activities that are not so close to that particular activity to put it on their notice board. The information might be correct, but it's not relevant at that particular area. So we should make the information on the notice board so relevant to the workers so that they will be attracted to it, so that they will get relevance from it, they will get adequate information from it, and from time to time, they will be able to check it to see if something have changed. Now, another thing that we can also bring up in the notice board is there's something we do in the construction industry. We do like safety, monthly safety award, right? So if you have given a monthly safety award, or maybe there was some pictures, or maybe there was a ceremony organized, you can put it together in a concise picture form and place it on very well on the notice board. This is a means of attraction. Remember, when you've been attracted and you are closer to the notice board, it's not only that thing that attracted you that you look at. You will use the opportunity to look at other information on the notice board. So if people have participated in that event, maybe some people do 1 million man-hour free incident, and they took some pictures, they organized some shows. So you can, in as much as it's not passing information, but it's a form of attraction as well. And it's also a form of motivation. It motivates the workers that they've worked for so number of hours, there was no incident, and they had a party. This is it. So we won't say that that is not relevant, but it's also a means of attraction. It can bring people closer to the notice board. And while they are close to that notice board, they will be able to peep at other relevant information there. And you are communicating. That is how notice board also functions. Mr. Valentine, you're highly welcome.
Good evening, all. Mr. Francis, welcome back from IOSH Council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, I think the point which you were mentioned just now, it's more than enough. Notice board should be relevant, should be suitable, should be sufficient. And then you also need to look at what is the objective of the notice board to capture the mindset of the code phase workers, or to capture the mindset of the other stakeholders. If you want to capture the mindset of the other stakeholders, like the consultants and the clients, notice board is not the best place. We always advise people to use other means to do that. We see people struggling all the time, like now. Just last week, my contractor put something on the notice board. The safety people put something on the safety notice board. And the quality people came and removed it and put their own. And then I told them, this is safety notice board. If you want a quality notice board, design it and take care of it. We want this information should be relevant for safety issues. So this is another point. Another point again is that if the safety notice, for the safety notice board to be valuable, some of the things that we see there should not be high level. Like most of these workers, they don't understand the basic English language. So we always advise people for things that you need to capture their attention, if you can put it in their local languages like Hindi, Urdu, Tagalog, Malayalam, this is acceptable. However, if you want to do something different and you think they can all understand English, I tell you, this is not the way. So these are basic things which we expect from safety notice board. Otherwise, the objective of safety notice board will be defeated, because nobody will look at it, like what our moderator said. Nobody will look at it. It would be irrelevant. And sometimes we see people say safety notice board is a waste of time. They move it. Some people have fixed safety notice board, others have movable safety notice board. I've seen one contractor move the safety notice board to behind the toilet. He said, keep it there. We don't have time for this, because it is not relevant and they don't take it serious. And I tell you, when an accident happens, people will come back and say, what was the information there? Was it cascaded to people? Was it distributed? How did they accept? Then people will be asking, okay, you didn't tell us about the value of the safety notice board. Next time we will do better. So safety notice board it's very valuable if people give it the attention it deserves.
Thank you very much for that closure and remark. It's very valuable if people give it the attention it requires. Actually, it's a communication tool, so we should use it to ensure that we are communicating. If we are not communicating, then it has become a decorative tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So guys, thank you very much for your time. Thank you. When we started today, it was as if we are not going to have the meeting today, but now it's more interesting that we don't even want to end again.
Yeah, and we're happy to have Francis back from IOSH Council as well.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm here. I'm still here. Thank you very much. I'll try to call you, so we'll have one or two discussions.
We are happy that you are back with us. I thought that you are gone for good.
No. I'm still here. Okay.
For now.
Okay.
So thank you all for joining. Francis, thank you for your time. Amajade, we appreciate. Don't worry, that network, very soon you'll be in a better area where the network will not disappoint you. So
okay, thank you.
Just manage for now.
Yes, sir.
All right. So Mr. Valentine, we appreciate. Francis, thank you for Stephen, thank you for your time and all. So I appreciate all your time.
Thank you, brother.
See you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.